The morning, Tabitha Norwood walked into Harper's General Store in Custer, Montana Territory, asking for vinegar and salt with tears threatening to spill from her green eyes. Nathan Ashford knew his carefully constructed solitary life was about to change forever. "I need vinegar and salt," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, her hands trembling as she placed 3 worn coins on the counter. "For preserving. The vegetables from my garden are ready, and if I do not preserve them now, everything will spoil and my daughter and I will have nothing for winter." Nathan had been leaning against the counter, waiting for old Mr. Harper to finish with another customer, but something about the desperation in her tone made him straighten. He had seen her around town before, always dressed in black, always alone except for a small girl who clung to her skirts. The widow Norwood, people called her, though no one seemed to know much about her except that her husband had died the previous winter, leaving her with a struggling homestead 5 miles outside town. "Mrs. Norwood," Mr. Harper said, his wrinkled face creasing with sympathy, "I am afraid 3 cents will not cover both items. The vinegar alone costs 5 cents and the salt another 3. The color drained from her face. "I see. Then just the salt, please." "Madam," Nathan heard himself say before he could think better of it, "allow me to purchase both items for you." She turned to look at him fully for the first time, and Nathan felt something shift in his chest. She was younger than he had realized, perhaps 25 at most, with auburn hair pulled back in a simple bun and freckles scattered across her nose. Her green eyes studied him with a mixture of pride and desperation. "I cannot accept charity, Mr. Ashford, Nathan Ashford." "And it is not charity, madam. Consider it neighboring kindness. I have a ranch about 3 miles from your property, and out here, we help each other." He pulled coins from his pocket and placed them on the counter before she could protest further. "Mr. Harper, please add whatever else Mrs. Norwood needs for her preserving." "I cannot repay you," she said, her voice tight. "I am not asking you to." Nathan met her gaze steadily. "Though if you are determined to settle the debt, perhaps you might allow me to stop by your property tomorrow. I have been meaning to check the fence line between our lands, and I could use a drink of water and a moment's rest when I am through." It was a flimsy excuse, and they both knew it, but it gave her a way to accept his help without feeling like she was taking charity. After a long moment, she nodded. "Tomorrow afternoon, then. Thank you, Mr. Ashford." As Nathan watched her leave the store with her purchases, Mr. Harper chuckled. "That is the first time I have seen you show interest in a woman since you came to these parts 3 years ago." "I am just being neighborly," Nathan said, but even to his own ears, the words sounded hollow. That night, lying in his bunk in the small ranch house he had built with his own hands, Nathan could not stop thinking about Tabitha Norwood. He had come to Montana Territory in 1881, running from memories of the war and a family that no longer recognized the man he had become. He had been 22 then, angry and lost, and he had poured all that rage and confusion into building something of his own. Now, at 25, he had a small but profitable ranch, a few hired hands who helped during roundup season, and a reputation as a fair but solitary man. He had never been tempted to change that solitary existence until today. The next afternoon, Nathan rode out toward the Norwood property with a canteen of water he did not need and tools for fence repair that the fence line did not require. As he approached the small homestead, he could see how much work the place needed. The barn leaned slightly to one side, several fence posts had rotted through, and the vegetable garden, though clearly tended with care, was being invaded by rabbits through gaps in the protective fencing. Tabitha emerged from the house as he dismounted, wiping her hands on her apron. Up close, In the full afternoon light, he could see the exhaustion in her face, the way her dress hung a bit too loose on her frame. "Mr. Ashford, I was not certain you would actually come." "I am a man of my word, Mrs. Norwood." He gestured toward the property. "I checked the fence line. It is holding well, but I noticed your garden fence has some gaps. If you have any spare wood, I could patch them for you. Those rabbits will eat everything if given the chance." She glanced toward the garden, and he saw shame flicker across her face. "I know. I have been meaning to fix it, but there are only so many hours in the day, and I am not particularly skilled with hammer and nails." "Where is your daughter today?" "Emma is napping inside. She is 5 and still takes an afternoon rest, thank goodness. It is the only quiet time I have." She hesitated, then added, "There is spare wood behind the barn, and I have lemonade if you would like some while you work." "That would be fine, madam." As Nathan worked on the garden fence, Tabitha brought him a glass of lemonade and then returned to her own work, hanging laundry on a line stretched between 2 posts. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, and Nathan found himself stealing glances at her. There was a quiet strength in the way she moved, a determination that spoke of someone who refused to give up no matter how hard things became. "Your husband," Nathan said carefully, "he passed last winter." "February," she said quietly, not looking at him. "Pneumonia. It happened quickly. 1 week he was well, the next he was gone." She pinned a small dress to the line with more force than necessary. "Thomas was never particularly good at ranching, if I am being honest. He was a clerk back in Ohio, where we are from. He had romantic notions about the West, about making our fortune. He did not understand how hard the work would be." "What brought you out here?" "Thomas wanted adventure. I wanted to make him happy." She turned to look at Nathan then, and there was something raw in her expression. "That sounds foolish, does not it? Following a man into a life I was not prepared for, just to make him happy." "It sounds like love," Nathan said simply. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Perhaps, or perhaps it was just foolishness. Either way, now I am here with a child to raise and land I can barely manage. Everyone in town expects me to give up and go back to Ohio, back to my parents, but I cannot. Why not? Because this is Emma's home. Because Thomas died trying to build something here, and I will not let that be for nothing, and because—" She paused, struggling with the words. "Because I need to prove to myself that I can do this, that I am more than just some foolish woman who followed her husband into disaster." Nathan finished nailing the last board into place and stood, testing the fence's strength. "You are preserving vegetables for winter. You are keeping your daughter fed and clothed. You are maintaining this property as best you can. That does not sound like disaster to me, Mrs. Norwood. That sounds like survival, and survival out here is its own kind of victory." When she looked at him, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You are kind to say so, Mr. Ashford. I am being honest." He picked up his tools. "I should head back, but I will be in town again in a few days. If you need anything else, you need only ask. Wait." She disappeared into the house and returned a moment later with a small jar. "It is strawberry preserves. I made them last month. Please take it. I know it does not come close to repaying your kindness, but I want you to have it." Nathan accepted the jar, their fingers brushing briefly. "Thank you, Mrs. Norwood." "Tabitha," she said softly. "If we are to be neighbors, you should call me Tabitha. Then you should call me Nathan." As he rode back to his ranch, the jar of preserves carefully tucked in his saddlebag, Nathan realized he was already planning reasons to return to the Norwood property. Over the following weeks, Nathan found himself riding past Tabitha's property with increasing frequency. At first, he invented legitimate excuses. He brought her extra eggs from his chickens, helped her repair the barn door that kept sticking, showed her how to better tend to the 3 scrawny cattle Thomas had left behind. But as June melted into July, the excuses became thinner, and they both knew he was coming simply because he wanted to see her. "Mama, Mr. Nathan is here again." Emma's excited voice would carry from wherever she was playing, and Tabitha would emerge from the house or the garden, her face brightening in a way that made Nathan's heart race. Emma had quickly adopted Nathan as a combination of playmate and hero. She would follow him around while he worked, chattering about her dolls and the baby rabbits she had seen, and how she was learning to read from the primer her mother used to teach her. Tabitha had told him there was no school close enough for Emma to attend, so she taught her daughter herself in the evenings. "You are good with her," Tabitha said one afternoon, watching as Nathan showed Emma how to whistle using a blade of grass. "Do you have children of your own?" "No. I have never married." Nathan helped Emma try again, laughing when she produced more spit than sound. "Never seemed like the right time, and then I came out here to start over and I convinced myself I was better off alone. And now," he met her eyes over Emma's head, "now I am not so convinced." The air between them seemed to thicken with unspoken words. Tabitha looked away first, her cheeks flushing pink. "Emma, go wash your hands for supper," she said. "They are covered in grass stains." Emma scampered off, leaving them alone in the yard. The sun was beginning its descent toward the mountains, painting everything in gold and amber. "Nathan, I need to be honest with you," Tabitha said quietly. "People in town are starting to talk about how often you come here, about what it means. Let them talk. It is not that simple. I am a widow. There are expectations, proprieties, if we appear to be." She struggled with the words. "Courting," Nathan supplied. "Yes. If we appear to be courting too soon after Thomas's death, people will judge me harshly. They will say I am disrespecting his memory. They might even question my fitness as a mother. It has been 5 months, which some people will say is barely adequate mourning time." She twisted her hands in her apron. "I am not saying I agree with them, but I have to live in this community. I have to think about Emma's reputation as well as my own." Nathan stepped closer, close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her green eyes. "Then tell me honestly, Tabitha, if there were no expectations, no proprieties, no judgment from the town, what would you want?" She drew in a shaky breath. "I would want you to keep coming here. I would want to see where this leads, because when you are here, I feel less alone. I feel like maybe I can actually manage this life. And when you look at me, I feel like someone sees me not as the poor widow or the foolish woman from Ohio, but as just me." "I do see you," Nathan said softly. "I see a strong, determined woman who is doing everything she can for her daughter. I see someone who refuses to give up even when everything seems impossible. I see someone who makes strawberry preserves in the middle of her grief because she knows winter is coming and she needs to be prepared. And yes, I see a beautiful woman who makes me want to be better than I am." Nathan. His name was barely a whisper on her lips. "I will be patient," he promised. "I will be discreet, but I will not stop coming here, not unless you tell me to. And when enough time has passed, when you are ready, I want to court you properly. I want everyone in Custer to know that I am pursuing the honor of your affection. You are an unusual man, Nathan Ashford. I will take that as a compliment." She smiled, genuinely smiled, and it transformed her face. It was meant as one. From that day forward, Nathan was careful to time his visits when other people might be around, or to bring one of his ranch hands with him so propriety was maintained. But despite these precautions, the connection between them only deepened. They talked while they worked, sharing stories of their pasts, their hopes for the future, their fears and dreams. Nathan learned that Tabitha had been teaching at a small school in Ohio before she married Thomas, that she loved reading and missed having access to books, that she played piano though she had not touched one since coming west. She learned that Nathan had served briefly in the cavalry before the wars with the tribes had ended, that he had a sister back in Virginia he had not spoken to in years, that he had taught himself to read by candlelight as a boy because his father believed education was wasted on farmers' sons. "You should write to your sister," Tabitha said one evening as they sat on her porch while Emma played in the yard, chasing fireflies in the gathering dusk. "Family is precious. You should not waste the opportunity to reconnect." She chose her husband over me when I told her I was going west. Said I was running away from my responsibilities. "Were you?" Nathan considered this. "Maybe. But sometimes running away from the wrong thing is the same as running toward the right thing. I am not the same person I was then. Out here, I have built something that is mine. I have become someone I can respect." "Then perhaps you should tell her that." Tabitha looked at him. "You have helped me see that I am not a failure for struggling. Maybe you need someone to help you see that you are not a coward for choosing a different path." Her words stayed with him, and that night, Nathan sat down and wrote to his sister for the first time in 3 years. The letter was awkward and uncertain, but he felt lighter for having written it. As summer deepened, Nathan's ranch demanded more of his attention. He had hired 2 young men to help with the cattle, and they were preparing for the annual roundup that would take place in late September. But no matter how busy he was, he made time to visit Tabitha at least twice a week, and he found himself living for those moments when he could see her smile, hear her laugh, watch the way the sunlight caught in her auburn hair. One scorching afternoon in August, Nathan arrived to find Tabitha in the garden, her face flushed with heat and frustration. "The well is running low," she said without preamble, "and 2 of the cows have gotten out through a gap in the fence I did not know was there. I have been searching for them all morning, but I cannot find them anywhere, and Emma is frightened they are gone forever, and I just—" She stopped, pressing her hands to her face. "I am sorry. I am overwhelmed. You have nothing to apologize for." Nathan gently pulled her hands from her face. "I will find the cows. You go inside, get out of this heat, and rest for a moment. When did you last eat?" "I do not know. This morning, perhaps, Tabitha." His voice was gentle but firm. "You cannot take care of Emma if you do not take care of yourself. Go inside. Eat something. I will handle the cows." He found the 2 animals about a mile away, contentedly grazing near a stream. By the time he herded them back and repaired the fence, the sun was beginning its descent. Emma ran out to greet him, throwing her arms around his waist. "You found them." "Mama said you would, but I was scared." "They were just having an adventure," Nathan assured her, "but they are home now and they are not going anywhere." Tabitha emerged from the house looking more composed, though exhaustion still lined her face. "Stay for supper," she said, "please." "It is the least I can do, and I made too much stew anyway." Nathan knew he should decline, knew that staying for supper crossed a line of propriety they had been carefully maintaining. But the hope in her eyes, the loneliness he recognized because he felt it too, made him nod. "I would like that." Supper was simple but good, eaten at a rough wooden table Thomas had made. Emma chattered throughout the meal, her earlier fear forgotten, and Tabitha occasionally met Nathan's eyes across the table with a soft smile that made his chest ache. This, he thought, this was what he wanted. Not just the help he could provide or the attraction he felt, but this sense of family, of belonging, of home. After Emma went to bed, Nathan lingered on the porch while Tabitha finished tidying the kitchen. When she joined him, the sky was dark and filled with stars, and the night air carried the scent of grass and distant pine. "I have been thinking," Tabitha said, sitting beside him on the porch steps. "About what you said. About courting me properly when I am ready." Nathan's heart began to beat faster. "Yes. It has been 6 months since Thomas died. I know some people will still think it is too soon, but I have realized something. I grieved for Thomas before he died. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I watched him struggle and fail and give up, and I grieved for the man I thought he would be. By the time he died, I had already said most of my goodbyes." She turned to look at Nathan, her eyes bright in the starlight. "I do not want to waste any more time pretending I do not have feelings for you. I do not want to hide or be ashamed. If you still want to court me, Nathan Ashford, then I am saying yes." Nathan took her hand, marveling at how perfectly it fit in his. "I want nothing more. But I want you to be certain. I want you to have no regrets. The only thing I would regret is letting you slip away because I was too afraid of what people might think." She squeezed his hand. "I am tired of being afraid. I am tired of barely surviving. When you are here, I feel like I might actually be able to live again." He raised her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "Then I will court you, and I will do it properly, and I will not give anyone in this town a reason to speak ill of you." "I am not sure that is possible," she said with a wry smile. "People love to gossip. Then we will give them something worth gossiping about. We will show them that love can bloom even in difficult times, that second chances exist, that widows are allowed to find happiness again." "You speak of love," she whispered. "I do." Nathan met her gaze steadily. "It is too soon to say the words fully, I know, but Tabitha, I am falling in love with you. I wake up thinking about you. I go to sleep thinking about you. When something good happens, you are the first person I want to tell. And when I am here with you and Emma, I feel more at home than I have felt anywhere in my entire life." Tears spilled down her cheeks, catching the starlight. "I am falling in love with you too. I think I have been for weeks, but I was too frightened to admit it." Nathan wanted to kiss her, wanted it so badly his whole body ached with it, but he held back. They would do this right, with respect for her position and her reputation. There would be time for kisses later when their courtship was established and accepted. Instead, he stood and helped her to her feet. "It is late, I should go, but I will come calling on Sunday afternoon if that is acceptable. We could take Emma for a ride into town, let everyone see us together." "Yes," she said. "I would like that very much." As Nathan rode home through the darkness, he felt as though something had fundamentally shifted in his life. He had come to Montana territory to escape, to start over, to build something alone. But now he was building something even better, something that mattered more than any fence line or head of cattle. He was building a future with someone who understood both strength and vulnerability, someone who matched him in determination and heart. Sunday afternoon arrived warm and clear, and Nathan, dressed in his best clothes, brushed his horse until it gleamed, and rode to Tabitha's property with flowers he had bought from Mrs. Henderson's garden in town. Emma squealed with delight when she saw them, and Tabitha blushed when he presented them to her. "You did not have to do this," she said, but he could see the pleasure in her eyes. "I wanted to. Let everyone in Custer see that I am courting the finest woman in Montana territory." Emma rode in front of Nathan on his horse while Tabitha rode the gentlest of her 3 horses, a mare named Daisy who Thomas had bought specifically for her. As they rode into town, Nathan noticed the stares, the whispers behind hands, the raised eyebrows. Let them look, he thought. Let them talk. Tabitha sat tall in her saddle, her chin raised, and he felt pride surge through him. They stopped at the general store, where Nathan bought Emma a peppermint stick and Tabitha a new hair ribbon, despite her protests. Then they walked to the small church at the end of Main Street, where they sat together during the evening service. Reverend Thompson gave them a long look but nodded his approval, and Nathan felt some of the tension leave Tabitha's shoulders. After the service, several women approached them. Mrs. Henderson, the pastor's wife, took Tabitha's hands. "My dear, I am glad to see you looking happier. And Mr. Ashford, you are a good man for helping our dear widow." Her eyes twinkled with understanding and approval. Not everyone was as kind. Mrs. Beatrice Walsh, the banker's wife, sniffed disapprovingly. 6 months is hardly an appropriate mourning period, Mrs. Norwood. What would your poor late husband think? Before Tabitha could respond, Nathan stepped forward. "I think Thomas Norwood would want his wife and daughter to be cared for, Mrs. Walsh. And I intend to do exactly that with honor and respect." Mrs. Walsh's face reddened, but she had no response to that. As they walked away, Tabitha's hand found Nathan's. "Thank you," she whispered. "You do not need to thank me for telling the truth." They took Emma to the small park near the edge of town, where she ran and played while Nathan and Tabitha sat on a bench, watching her. This time, when Tabitha's hand rested in his, Nathan did not hide it. Let the whole town see. Let them know his intentions were serious and honorable. "I spoke with Reverend Thompson before the service," Nathan said. "I asked him about the proper courtship period for a widow. He said that 6 months is acceptable, especially given your circumstances, and that when we are ready to marry, he would be honored to perform the ceremony." Tabitha's breath caught. "When we are ready to marry? I am a man who knows what he wants, Tabitha. I want you. I want Emma. I want to wake up every morning knowing you are mine and I am yours. I want to work my ranch knowing I am building something for our family. I want to grow old with you, through good times and hard times, through Montana winters and summer droughts, through everything life brings." He turned to face her fully. "I know it is fast. I know some people will say it is too soon, but out here we cannot afford to waste time. Life is uncertain, so I am telling you now with complete honesty that I intend to marry you, Tabitha Norwood. Not tomorrow, not next week, but soon. As soon as you are ready. I am not a woman of means," she said quietly. "I bring nothing to this marriage but debt and a failing homestead and a child who is not yours. You bring yourself. That is everything." Nathan lifted her chin gently so she had to meet his eyes. "Emma is a joy. Your homestead can be saved or sold or incorporated into my ranch, whatever makes sense. And as for debt, we will face it together. You are not alone anymore, Tabitha. I am here and I am not going anywhere. You make it sound so simple. Maybe it is. Maybe we are the ones who complicate things. I love you, you love me, we want to build a life together. Everything else is just details we can work out." She laughed, a sound of pure happiness that made his heart soar. "You are either the wisest man I have ever met or the most foolish. Perhaps both," he grinned. "What do you say, Tabitha? Will you marry me? Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. Will you let me be a husband to you and a father to Emma? Will you let me season your life with devotion the way you have seasoned mine with hope?" The tears on her cheeks were happy ones now. "Yes, yes, Nathan Ashford, I will marry you. And I will do my best to be the wife you deserve." "You already are," he said softly, and then, because they were far enough from prying eyes and because he could not wait another moment, he kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, full of promise and tenderness, and when they pulled apart, Tabitha was smiling in a way he had never seen before, radiant and free. "Mama, Mr. Nathan, come push me on the swing." Emma's voice carried across the park, and they both laughed. "We should probably tell her soon," Tabitha said, "about us getting married." "Tonight," Nathan agreed. "We will tell her together." That evening, after they returned to Tabitha's homestead, they sat Emma down and explained that Nathan was going to become her new father. Emma's reaction was immediate and enthusiastic. "Really, really, truly, You will live with us and tell me stories and teach me to ride horses." "Really, truly," Nathan assured her, "if that is all right with you." "It is better than all right, it is perfect." She threw her arms around both of them. "I always wished for a papa who was happy. Mr. Thomas was nice, but he was always so sad. You smile all the time, Mr. Nathan." "That is because your mama makes me happy," Nathan said, meeting Tabitha's eyes over Emma's head. After Emma went to bed, Nathan and Tabitha sat together on the porch once more, making plans. They decided to marry in October, after the fall roundup was complete. That would give them time to prepare and would satisfy any remaining concerns about propriety. Tabitha would move into Nathan's larger, sturdier ranch house, and they would sell her homestead or lease it to a family looking to start fresh. "I feel like I can breathe for the first time in months," Tabitha said, leaning against Nathan's shoulder. "Like the weight I have been carrying has finally lifted. You have been so strong for so long. You do not have to carry everything alone anymore." The weeks between the proposal and the wedding were busy ones. Nathan threw himself into preparing the ranch house for Tabitha and Emma, adding a room for Emma and making improvements to the kitchen. Tabitha worked on her homestead, sorting through belongings, deciding what to keep and what to leave behind. Several times a week, Nathan would bring his wagon and transport more of her things to the ranch. The ranch hands, Jake and Samuel, were enthusiastic about the upcoming wedding. Jake, a lanky 20-year-old from Texas, had a sweetheart in town and was inspired by Nathan's romance. Samuel, older and more weathered, simply appreciated that Nathan would have someone to share his life with. "Boss, if you do not mind me saying, you have been a different man these past months," Samuel said one afternoon while they were mending fences. "Lighter somehow. That little widow and her daughter, they are good for you." "They are everything to me," Nathan admitted. "I did not realize how lonely I was until Tabitha came into my life." "Well, we are all glad for you. And Miss Emma, she is a sweetheart, already has Jake wrapped around her little finger." Nathan laughed. "She has that effect on people." In town, the initial shock of their courtship had settled into general acceptance. Most people agreed that Tabitha needed help and that Nathan was a good man who would treat her and Emma well. There were still a few, like Mrs. Walsh, who maintained their disapproval, but even they were quieter about it now. Tabitha had become friends with Rachel Henderson, the pastor's wife, who helped her prepare for the wedding. Rachel was a kind woman in her 40s who had raised 5 children and knew both the joys and challenges of frontier life. "You are doing the right thing," Rachel assured Tabitha one afternoon while they worked on altering a dress for the wedding. "Nathan is a good man, steady and hardworking. And it is clear to anyone with eyes that he adores you." "I feel guilty sometimes," Tabitha confessed. "Thomas has been gone less than a year, and here I am, planning a new wedding, feeling happier than I have in years. Thomas would want you to be happy. He would want Emma to have a father who can provide for her. You do not owe the dead more than you owe the living, dear. You have done your grieving. Now you get to do your living." Those words settled something in Tabitha's heart. She had loved Thomas in her way, had grieved his death and the loss of the future they had planned. But Nathan was her future now, and she was ready to embrace it fully. October arrived with crisp air and golden leaves, and suddenly the wedding was only days away. Nathan found himself nervous in a way he had not expected. What if he could not make Tabitha happy? What if he failed to be the father Emma needed? What if he was not enough? But then he would see Tabitha's face light up when he arrived at the ranch, or Emma would run to him chattering about her day, or Tabitha would take his hand and tell him she loved him, and the fears would fade. This was right. They were right. The wedding took place on a Saturday afternoon in early October, in the small church in Custer. Tabitha wore a simple blue dress that brought out her eyes, and Emma wore a new dress Rachel had helped sew. Nathan stood at the altar in his best suit, his heart pounding as he watched Tabitha walk down the aisle. She was beautiful, but more than that, she was his, and he was hers, and they were building something together that would last. Reverend Thompson performed the ceremony with warmth and joy, speaking about second chances and the courage it takes to love again. When Nathan slipped the simple gold band onto Tabitha's finger, his hand was steady, his voice clear as he made his vows. "I promise to cherish you, to provide for you, to be faithful and true in good times and bad. I promise to be a father to Emma and to love her as my own. I promise to season every day with devotion, to never let you face hardship alone, to build a life with you that honors both our pasts and our future." Tabitha's vows were equally heartfelt. "I promise to stand beside you, to support your dreams, to be a partner in all things. I promise to trust you with my heart and my daughter's heart. I promise to fill our home with love and laughter, to face every challenge with courage, to build a life with you that celebrates the gift of second chances." When Reverend Thompson pronounced them husband and wife, Nathan kissed Tabitha thoroughly, to the cheers and applause of the assembled townspeople. Emma bounced excitedly beside them, and Nathan scooped her up. "Welcome to our family, Emma girl," he said. "Welcome to our family, Papa Nathan," she replied, trying out the name they had agreed upon. The reception was held at the town hall, with food brought by various families and music provided by a fiddler who could make even the shyest person want to dance. Nathan danced with Tabitha, then with Emma, then with Tabitha again, holding her close and marveling that this was his life now. "Happy, Mrs. Ashford," he murmured into her ear. "Happier than I ever thought possible, Mr. Ashford." As the sun set and the celebration began to wind down, Nathan lifted Emma, who had fallen asleep on a bench, and helped Tabitha into the wagon. They drove back to the ranch under a sky full of stars, and Nathan felt a peace settle over him that was deeper than anything he had known. When they arrived home, Nathan carried Emma to her new room and tucked her into bed while Tabitha stood in the doorway, watching. Then they went to their own room, and Nathan held Tabitha close, both of them too overwhelmed with emotion for much talk. They had made it. Against the odds, against the gossips, against their own doubts and fears, they had made it to this moment. "I love you," Tabitha whispered into the darkness. "I love you too, always." The early days of their marriage were an adjustment, as Nathan had expected. Emma adapted quickly to life on the ranch, delighting in the animals and the space to run and play. But Tabitha struggled with the change, feeling guilty about abandoning her homestead even though selling it had been the practical choice, and uncertain about her role in Nathan's established household. "I feel like a visitor," she confessed one evening after Emma had gone to bed. "Like I am living in someone else's home rather than my own." "Then make it yours," Nathan said gently. "Change whatever you want. Move furniture, plant a new garden, rearrange the kitchen. This is your home now, Tabitha, our home. I want you to feel comfortable here." Taking him at his word, Tabitha began to put her own stamp on the ranch. She rearranged the kitchen to be more efficient, planted herbs and flowers near the house, and moved furniture to create a cozy reading corner where she could teach Emma. Nathan loved coming home to find these changes, loved seeing evidence of Tabitha's presence everywhere he looked. He also loved the way their family routines developed. Breakfast together each morning, with Emma chattering about the day ahead. Lunch often eaten quickly in the midst of work, but always with a moment to connect, to share a smile or a kiss. Supper together every evening, followed by Emma's lessons and bedtime story, and then precious time alone with Tabitha, talking or simply sitting together in comfortable silence. November brought the first significant test of their marriage when an early blizzard swept through, stranding them at the ranch for 3 days. Nathan worried constantly about the cattle, knowing some might be lost, but he could not risk going out in the whiteout conditions. Tabitha kept the household running smoothly, cooking meals, entertaining Emma, and helping Nathan not to lose his mind with worry. "They are Montana cattle," she reminded him. "They know how to survive winter storms. You have done everything you can to prepare them. Now you have to trust that it will be enough." When the storm finally passed, Nathan and the ranch hands rode out to assess the damage. They lost 2 calves and 1 older cow, which was less than Nathan had feared. As they rode back to the ranch house that evening, cold and exhausted, Nathan saw smoke rising from the chimney and lamplight in the windows and felt his heart swell. He was coming home, not just to a house, but to a family who loved him and needed him. Tabitha met him at the door with hot coffee and warm bread, and Emma threw her arms around his legs, not caring that he was covered in snow. "I was worried," Tabitha said simply. "I am fine. We all are. We lost some cattle, but not as many as we could have." He pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. "Thank you for keeping everything together here." "That is what partners do," she said. "We take care of each other." December brought another kind of storm when Tabitha discovered she was pregnant. She told Nathan one evening after Emma had gone to bed, her hands trembling as she held his. "I know we have only been married 2 months," she said nervously. "I know this is fast and we are still adjusting, but Nathan, I am carrying your child." The joy that flooded through Nathan was so intense it made his eyes sting. "You are certain?" "As certain as I can be. Rachel helped me confirm it. The baby should come in late June or early July." Nathan pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she laughed and protested that he would squeeze the breath from her. "This is wonderful. This is perfect. You are giving me everything I never knew I wanted. You are not worried about the timing, about the expense." "I am not worried about anything except keeping you and the baby healthy." He placed his hand gently on her stomach, marveling that his child was growing there. "We will manage the rest. We always do." Telling Emma the news was equally joyful. At first, she did not quite understand what a baby sibling meant, but as Tabitha explained, her eyes grew wide. "A real baby that I can help take care of." "A real baby," Tabitha confirmed. "You will be a big sister." "Will it be a boy or a girl?" "We will not know until the baby arrives," Nathan said. "But either way, the baby will be lucky to have you as a big sister." Emma seemed to grow taller with pride at the responsibility. "I will teach the baby everything I know about horses and gardens and catching fireflies." As Tabitha's pregnancy progressed through the winter, Nathan found himself more protective than ever. He insisted she rest more, refused to let her do heavy work, and worried constantly about her health. Tabitha bore his hovering with patient amusement, reminding him that women had been having babies since the beginning of time and she would be fine. "I survived Emma's birth in a small cabin with only Thomas and a midwife who arrived half drunk," she said. "This time I have Rachel, who has delivered dozens of babies, and a warm, comfortable house, and a husband who actually knows what he is doing. I will be fine." But Nathan could not help remembering all the women he had known who had not survived childbirth, all the babies who had come too early or not at all. The fear was a constant companion, even as he marveled at the changes in Tabitha's body, the way she bloomed with pregnancy, the way Emma would press her ear to her mother's belly trying to hear the baby. Spring arrived with the usual chaos of calving season, and Nathan was busier than ever, but he always made time to be home for supper, to check on Tabitha, to reassure himself that she and the baby were well. Rachel visited frequently, monitoring Tabitha's progress and pronouncing everything normal and healthy. "You worry too much," Rachel told Nathan one afternoon. "Tabitha is strong and healthy. She is eating well, resting enough, and she has already done this once before. The baby will come when it is ready and both mother and child will be fine." "You cannot promise that," Nathan said quietly. "No, I cannot. But I can tell you that worrying will not help. Trust in God and trust in Tabitha's strength. That is all any of us can do." Emma turned 6 in April, and they celebrated with a small party at the ranch. Several families from town came, and Emma played with the other children, showing off the ranch and her animals with obvious pride. Watching her, Tabitha leaned against Nathan's side. "She is happy here," she said softly, "truly happy. When we lived at the old homestead, she was always a bit anxious, picking up on my stress, I think. But here she thrives. She has stability now, security. She knows she is safe and loved." "She has you," Tabitha corrected. "You are exactly the father she needed." Nathan kissed the top of her head. "I am the one who got lucky. I got both of you." May brought unseasonably warm weather, and Tabitha, now heavily pregnant, spent much of her time in the shade of the porch, sewing baby clothes and teaching Emma to help. Nathan loved coming upon them like this, their heads bent together over their work, Emma's tongue poking out in concentration as she tried to make her stitches neat. "How are you feeling?" Nathan would ask multiple times a day. "Like I am carrying a baby," Tabitha would reply with amusement. "Stop worrying so much." But as June arrived and Tabitha grew more uncomfortable, Nathan's worry only increased. She could not sleep well, her back ached constantly, and she grew frustrated with her limited mobility. Nathan did everything he could to help, taking over all the heavy household work, hiring a woman from town to help with cooking and cleaning, making sure Tabitha rested as much as possible. "I am not made of glass," Tabitha protested one afternoon when Nathan refused to let her hang laundry. "No, but you are precious to me and I will not take chances with your health." She softened at that, reaching up to cup his face. "I know you are worried, but Nathan, worry will not change anything. The baby will come when it comes. All we can do is be ready." "I am trying to be ready." "I am just afraid." "Of what?" "Of losing you, of losing the baby, of something going wrong and not being able to fix it." He pulled her close as her belly would allow. "I love you so much it terrifies me sometimes. Before you, I had nothing to lose. Now I have everything, and the thought of something happening to you or Emma or the baby makes me feel like I cannot breathe." "Oh, Nathan," tears filled her eyes. "I am afraid too, but we cannot live in fear. We have to trust that God will see us through and that no matter what happens, we will face it together." "Together," he repeated, drawing strength from the word. On a warm evening in late June, Tabitha's labor began. Nathan sent Jake racing to town to fetch Rachel while he tried to keep calm for Emma, who was both excited and frightened by what was happening. When Rachel arrived with her calm competence and her bag of supplies, Nathan felt some of his panic ease. "Go take Emma to the foreman's house," Rachel instructed. "Samuel's wife will look after her. This is no place for a child, no matter how curious she is." Nathan did as he was told, then returned to pace the hallway outside the bedroom, listening to Tabitha's occasional groans and Rachel's steady, encouraging voice. The hours crawled by with agonizing slowness. Night fell, then deepened. Nathan prayed more fervently than he ever had, making bargains with God, promising anything if Tabitha and the baby would just be all right. Finally, as dawn was breaking, he heard a new sound, the thin, furious wail of a newborn. Nathan's legs went weak with relief. A moment later, Rachel opened the door, smiling. "You have a son, Nathan, and Tabitha is tired but well. Come meet your boy." Nathan entered the room to find Tabitha propped up against pillows, her hair damp with sweat, her face exhausted but radiant. In her arms was a tiny bundle, and when Nathan approached, she pulled back the blanket to reveal a red, wrinkled face and a shock of dark hair. "Our son," she whispered. "He is perfect." Nathan sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the impossibly small person in awe. "He is so little." "All babies are little," Tabitha said with a tired laugh. "Here, hold him." With shaking hands, Nathan accepted the bundle. The baby was lighter than he expected, warm and solid and real. His son. His child. The baby opened his eyes, unfocused but already searching, and Nathan felt his heart crack open with a love so fierce it nearly brought him to his knees. "Hello, little one," he whispered. "I am your papa, and I promise you I am going to do everything in my power to give you a good life." "What should we name him?" Tabitha asked. They had discussed names, but now, holding his son, Nathan knew exactly what felt right. "Thomas, after your first husband. He brought you west, which eventually brought you to me, and he gave us Emma. He deserves to be remembered." Tears spilled down Tabitha's cheeks. "Are you certain you do not have to do this just to honor him?" "I am certain. Thomas Nathan Ashford. He will carry both our names, honoring the past while looking to the future." "That is perfect," Tabitha whispered. When Emma came to meet her baby brother later that morning, she was initially hesitant, overwhelmed by how tiny he was. But when Tabitha let her sit on the bed and hold Thomas with help, Emma's face transformed with wonder. "He is so small, and his hands are so little." "Mama, look at his tiny fingers. You were this small once," Tabitha said. "And now you are a big girl, a big sister. Thomas is lucky to have you." "I will protect him," Emma declared solemnly, "and teach him everything just like I promised." Nathan sat on the other side of the bed, his arm around Emma, watching Tabitha cuddle Thomas. His family. His whole world in one room. He thought about the day he had walked into the general store and heard Tabitha asking for vinegar and salt, her voice desperate, her situation dire. He thought about all the moments since then, each one building toward this. "What are you thinking?" Tabitha asked, catching his expression. "That you walked into that store needing vinegar and salt for preserving, needing basic things to help you survive. And now look at us. Look at what we have built. You seasoned everything with your devotion," Tabitha said softly, echoing words he had said months ago. "You took my survival and transformed it into a life worth living. You gave me and Emma security and love, and now you have given us Thomas. How can I ever thank you enough? By being exactly who you are, by loving me the way you do, by building this family with me." Nathan leaned over to kiss her forehead. "I was the one surviving before you, Tabitha. You are the one who taught me the difference between surviving and truly living." The days and weeks after Thomas's birth were exhausting but joyful. Nathan helped with nighttime feedings, walking the floor with his son when the baby would not settle, changing diapers with increasingly competent hands. Emma was a devoted big sister, always wanting to help, singing to Thomas when he cried, bringing him her favorite toys. Rachel visited frequently to check on mother and baby, pronouncing both healthy and thriving. "You are natural parents," she told them. "Thomas is a lucky boy." As summer deepened, Nathan found himself marveling at how seamlessly Thomas had fit into their lives. Yes, there were sleepless nights and moments of frustration, but there was also the profound satisfaction of watching his son grow and change, of seeing Tabitha blossom as a mother, of witnessing Emma's gentle care for her baby brother. One evening in August, with Emma in bed and Thomas finally sleeping after a fussy afternoon, Nathan and Tabitha sat on the porch watching the sunset. Tabitha leaned against Nathan's shoulder, and he wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "You remember our first real conversation?" Tabitha asked. "In Mr. Harper's store when you insisted on buying me the vinegar and salt. I remember thinking you were the most stubborn woman I had ever met, refusing charity even when you clearly needed help. I remember thinking you were either incredibly kind or incredibly foolish, spending your money on a stranger." She turned to look up at him. "I never could have imagined then that we would end up here, married with 2 children, running this ranch together." "I could imagine it," Nathan said. "From that first moment, I felt something shift, like my life was dividing into before and the after was going to be something extraordinary. And has it been extraordinary, more than I have words to describe." Nathan kissed her softly. "You took my loneliness and transformed it into love. You took my solitary life and filled it with family. You are my extraordinary, Tabitha. And you are mine." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun sank below the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. From inside the house, they heard Thomas begin to fuss, and Tabitha sighed. "Duty calls." "I will get him," Nathan offered. "You rest." He brought Thomas outside, and they sat together, the 3 of them, watching the last of the daylight fade. Nathan thought about his sister back in Virginia, wondering if she had received his letter about the wedding and Thomas's birth. He hoped she had. Hoped she might understand now that his journey west had not been about running away but about finding himself. As if reading his thoughts, Tabitha said, "Have you heard from your sister?" "Not yet. But I hope I will eventually. Even if it takes years, I want Emma and Thomas to know they have an aunt, that they have family beyond just us." "We should take a photograph," Tabitha said suddenly. "The 4 of us together. Something we can send to your sister, something to show her the family you have built." "I would like that." The following week, they went into Custer and had a family photograph taken by the traveling photographer who visited once a month. They dressed in their best clothes, Nathan holding Thomas while Emma stood beside Tabitha. When the photographer told them to hold still, Nathan thought about how this single image would capture this moment in their lives, this perfect summer when everything felt right with the world. Later, when the photograph was developed and they saw themselves frozen in time, Nathan felt a lump form in his throat. They looked like what they were. A family, unified and strong, facing the camera with hope and love evident in their expressions. He sent a copy to his sister along with a long letter describing his life, his wife, his children, his ranch. He did not know if she would respond, but he had opened the door, and that was enough for now. September brought the fall roundup, and Nathan was busier than ever, but he made sure to be home every evening for supper and to spend time with his family. Emma had started more formal lessons with Tabitha, learning to read and write and do simple arithmetic. Thomas was growing quickly, becoming more alert and responsive, his eyes following movement, his mouth forming sounds that were not quite words but were clearly attempts at communication. "He is going to be an early talker," Tabitha predicted, "just like Emma was." "Then we are in trouble," Nathan joked. "We will never have a quiet moment again." But he did not mean it. He loved the noise of his household, loved the constant activity and chatter and life. After years of silence and solitude, this chaos was a gift. October brought cooler weather and the first anniversary of their wedding. Nathan arranged for Emma and Thomas to stay with Rachel and her husband for the night, and he took Tabitha into Custer for a special dinner at the hotel restaurant, the fanciest place in town. "This is too much," Tabitha protested when he told her his plan, but he could see the pleasure in her eyes. "It is our anniversary. We are celebrating." At dinner, they talked about the past year, marveling at how much had changed. They had weathered their first Montana winter together, survived the challenges of blending their lives, brought a child into the world, and emerged stronger for all of it. "I am so grateful for you," Tabitha said, reaching across the table to take Nathan's hand. "For your patience and your kindness and your steadfast love. You have given me a life I never dreamed possible." "I am the grateful one," Nathan countered. "You gave me purpose, a reason to build something beyond just survival. You gave me a family to love and protect. You gave me everything that matters." When they returned home late that night, they stood in the doorway of Emma's room, watching her sleep, then moved to Thomas's cradle where their son slumbered peacefully. Nathan wrapped his arms around Tabitha from behind, and they stood there together, watching their children, feeling the profound contentment that comes from knowing you are exactly where you are meant to be. Winter arrived with its usual harshness, but the Ashford household was prepared. Nathan had stockpiled supplies, reinforced the barn, and made sure his family would want for nothing. On Christmas morning, Emma's squeals of delight over the wooden dollhouse Nathan had spent weeks building echoed through the house. Thomas, now 6 months old, was fascinated by the colorful paper and ribbons, more interested in those than the wooden toys Nathan had carved for him. "He will appreciate them when he is older," Tabitha said with a laugh, rescuing a piece of ribbon from Thomas's mouth. They spent the day together, just the four of them, eating too much food, playing games, reading stories by the fire. As evening fell and Emma drooped with exhaustion and Thomas fought sleep with decreasing success, Nathan looked around his home and felt a wave of contentment so profound. It was almost overwhelming. This was what mattered. Not cattle or land or money, though those things were important. But this: family, love, the simple domestic joys of a life shared with people you loved. A year and a half ago, he had been alone, building a ranch for no particular purpose beyond proving he could. Now every fence he mended, every calf he helped birth, every crop he planted had meaning because it was for them, for this family, for this future they were building together. "Happy?" Tabitha asked, settling beside him on the sofa while Emma played quietly with her dollhouse and Thomas dozed in Nathan's arms. "More than I have words to express." Nathan kissed her softly. "Thank you for this, for all of it. We built it together," she reminded him. "That is the beauty of it. Neither of us could have done this alone." As winter deepened, Nathan began teaching Emma to ride, starting with short trips around the ranch yard on the gentlest mare. Emma took to it naturally, her face glowing with pride and excitement. Tabitha watched from the porch, Thomas bundled against her chest, and Nathan caught her wiping away tears. "What is wrong?" he asked when the lesson was over and Emma had run inside to warm up. "Nothing is wrong. I am just happy and relieved and grateful." She looked up at him. "When Thomas died and left us at that homestead, I did not think we would survive. I thought we would starve or freeze or be driven away by circumstances beyond my control. And now look at us. Emma is learning to ride. Thomas is healthy and growing. We have a warm house and plenty of food and a future that looks bright. It feels like a miracle." "It is not a miracle. It is what happens when people work together, when they support each other, when they refuse to give up." Nathan pulled her close. "You were surviving when I met you, but you were not beaten. You still had fight in you. That is what drew me to you first, before I ever fell in love with you. I saw that strength and determination, and I wanted to be part of it." "I love you so much," she whispered against his chest. "More than I thought possible. I love you too. Always and forever." Spring brought new life to the ranch as it always did. The cattle that had survived the winter were healthy and ready to breed. Nathan's herd had grown significantly since he had married Tabitha, and he was able to hire 2 more permanent ranch hands to help manage the increased workload. The ranch was becoming prosperous, not wealthy by any means, but comfortable and stable. In April, a letter arrived from Nathan's sister, Helen. Nathan's hands shook as he opened it, afraid of what it might say. But as he read, relief and joy washed over him. "She forgave me," he told Tabitha that evening. "She said she was wrong to judge me for leaving, that she understands now that sometimes we need distance to find ourselves. She is happy I am happy, and she wants to know Emma and Thomas. She even suggested she might visit next summer." "That is wonderful." Tabitha hugged him tightly. "I am so glad, Nathan. Family is important, even when that family is far away." The prospect of Helen's visit gave them something to plan for and anticipate. Nathan wrote back immediately, telling her more about his life, about Tabitha and the children, about the ranch. Helen's letters became more frequent, and Nathan felt a piece of his past healing, the rift with his family finally beginning to close. Thomas celebrated his first birthday in late June with a small party at the ranch. He was walking now, toddling everywhere on unsteady legs, and he had a few words: Mama, Papa, Emma, and an approximation of horse that sounded more like whore. Emma doted on him constantly, always wanting to play with him, read to him, show him new things. "She is going to make an excellent teacher someday," Tabitha observed. "She has such patience with him." "She learned that from you," Nathan said. As summer progressed, Nathan found himself thinking about the future in ways he never had before. Emma was 7 now and thriving, but she needed more education than Tabitha could provide at home. Thomas would need schooling too in a few years, and Nathan wanted to expand the ranch, maybe buy some neighboring land, build something even more substantial for his family. "I have been thinking," he said to Tabitha one evening, "about starting a school here on the ranch. There are several families in the area now, all with children who need education. If we built a schoolhouse and hired a teacher, Emma could attend, and when Thomas is old enough, he could too." Tabitha's eyes lit up. "I could teach. I was a teacher before I married Thomas, remember?" "I remember. But you have your hands full with Thomas and running this household. We could hire someone, pay them a fair wage. Or," Tabitha said slowly, "we could do both. I could teach, and we could hire help for the house. Nathan, I loved teaching. I have missed it, and this would give me a way to contribute beyond just being a wife and mother." Nathan considered this. The idea of Tabitha having her own purpose beyond the household appealed to him, and he knew she was more than capable. "Then we will do it. We will build a schoolhouse and you will be the teacher, and we will make sure every child in this area has access to education." They broke ground on the schoolhouse in August, a simple but sturdy building that could accommodate a dozen children. Word spread quickly, and by the time the schoolhouse was finished in late September, 5 families had committed to sending their children. Tabitha threw herself into preparing, ordering primers and slates and all the supplies she would need. The first day of school was a proud moment for the entire Ashford family. Emma sat in the front row, beaming with pride that her mother was the teacher. Nathan attended with Thomas on his hip, watching as Tabitha commanded the classroom with natural authority and warmth. This was who she was meant to be, he realized. Not just his wife or Emma's mother or Thomas's mother, but herself, fully realized and using her gifts. That evening, after the students had gone home and the schoolhouse was cleaned and ready for the next day, Tabitha practically glowed with happiness. "That was amazing," she said. "I had forgotten how much I loved teaching, how satisfying it is to see children learn and grow." "You were magnificent," Nathan said. "Those children are lucky to have you. We are building something real here, Tabitha said, looking around at the ranch, the house, the schoolhouse. "Something that will outlast us, that will benefit this whole community." "We are," Nathan agreed. "Together." The years that followed were filled with the rhythms of ranch life. Cattle drives and harvests, harsh winters and abundant summers, challenges and triumphs. Emma grew into a confident young woman, brilliant in her studies, beloved by everyone who knew her. Thomas grew from a toddler into a rambunctious boy who loved horses and cattle and everything about ranch life. In the spring of 1887, Helen finally made her promised visit, traveling all the way from Virginia with her husband and their 2 children. The reunion between Nathan and his sister was emotional. Years of separation and misunderstanding finally fully healed. Helen fit seamlessly into their life on the ranch, and the cousins became fast friends. "You have built something extraordinary," Helen told Nathan one evening as they sat on the porch watching their children play. "I am sorry I did not understand before, sorry I judged you for leaving, but I see now that you found exactly what you needed here." "I did. I found purpose and family and love. I found Tabitha. She is remarkable. The children adore her, not just your own but all the students at her school, and the way she looks at you." Helen smiled. "That is real love, Nathan, the kind that lasts." When Helen and her family left 2 weeks later, there were tears but also promises to visit again, to stay connected, to be the family they should have been all along. Nathan felt a piece of his past finally settle into place, no longer a source of pain, but a foundation for his present and future. The schoolhouse flourished under Tabitha's leadership, becoming a central part of the growing community. Children who might otherwise have gone uneducated learned to read and write and do mathematics. Several of Tabitha's students went on to attend boarding schools or colleges, carrying their education further than anyone had expected. Emma, in particular, excelled in her studies. By the time she was 16, she had exhausted everything Tabitha could teach her, and they began discussing sending her to a women's college back east. It was a difficult decision, one that required much prayer and conversation, but ultimately they decided to give Emma the opportunity to pursue her dreams. "You are sure about this?" Nathan asked Emma the night before she left for college. "You do not have to go. You could stay here, teach at the school with your mother." "I want to go, Papa Nathan," Emma said firmly. She had never stopped calling him Papa Nathan, even as she grew older, and Nathan loved her for it. "But I will come back. This is my home, and I want to bring what I learned back here to make things better." "That is all I can ask," Nathan said, hugging her tightly. Watching Emma leave was one of the hardest things Nathan had ever done, but he was proud of her courage and determination. She wrote home frequently, full of stories about her classes and new friends and the exciting world she was discovering. Thomas, meanwhile, was becoming a skilled rancher, working alongside Nathan and the hired hands, learning everything about cattle and horses and land management. At 12, he could ride as well as any grown man and had a natural gift with animals. Nathan looked at his son and saw the future of the ranch, saw the legacy they were building continuing to the next generation. "He is going to be something special," Tabitha said one evening watching Thomas work with a young horse, his patience and skill evident. "He already is," Nathan replied. "They both are. We did good, Tabitha." "We did," she agreed, leaning against him. "We really did." In the fall of 1893, Emma returned home with her teaching degree and a young man named David in tow. David was a fellow teacher, earnest and kind, and it was clear he adored Emma. Nathan gave his blessing for their courtship, and the following spring, Emma and David were married in the same church where Nathan and Tabitha had exchanged vows 14 years earlier. Emma and David built a house on the edge of the ranch property, and David joined Tabitha at the school as a second teacher. The school had grown so much that one teacher was no longer sufficient, and having David there allowed them to separate the older and younger students, providing more tailored education. Thomas was 17 now, nearly a man, and Nathan was in the process of signing over partial ownership of the ranch to him, making him a full partner in the enterprise. Thomas had earned it, had proven himself capable and responsible, and Nathan wanted him to have security and investment in the ranch's future. One evening in early summer, Nathan and Tabitha sat on their porch, a ritual they had maintained throughout their marriage. Emma was at her own home with David. Thomas was in town courting a young woman named Sarah. The house was quiet in a way it had not been in years. "Strange, is not it?" Tabitha said. "How quiet it is now. I remember when the house was always full of noise and chaos, when we never had a moment's peace." "You miss it?" Nathan asked. "Sometimes. But this is good too. We have earned this peace, this quiet." She took his hand. "We have raised good children, Nathan. We have built a good life." "We have," Nathan agreed. "And it all started with vinegar and salt." Tabitha laughed. "I cannot believe you still remember that. I will never forget it. I walked into that store and there you were, desperate and proud and trying so hard to survive. And I just knew I had to help you, had to be part of your life somehow. You seasoned my survival with your devotion," Tabitha said softly. "You took my desperate attempt to preserve vegetables and turned it into something beautiful. You gave me a life worth living, children to love, a purpose beyond just getting through each day." "You gave me all that too," Nathan said. "Before you, I was just going through the motions, building a ranch for no particular reason. You gave me a reason. You gave me everything." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the mountains, the same view they had watched hundreds of times before. Nathan was 52 now, Tabitha 53. They had lived through joy and sorrow, triumph and difficulty, always together, always supporting each other. "What are you thinking?" Tabitha asked, catching him staring at her. "That I love you more now than I did the day we married. That every year with you has been a gift. That if I had to do it all over again, I would not change a single thing." Tears sparkled in Tabitha's eyes. "I love you too. So much. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Nathan Ashford. And you are mine, Tabitha Ashford." As darkness fell and the stars began to appear, they remained on the porch, holding hands, content in the life they had built together. Inside the house, photographs lined the walls. Their wedding day, Emma and Thomas as children, the schoolhouse opening, Emma's wedding, countless family gatherings and celebrations. Each image was a testament to their love, their devotion, their determination to build something meaningful. The ranch stretched out around them, hundreds of acres of Montana territory that they had tended and improved and loved. The schoolhouse stood at the edge of the property, a beacon of education and hope for the community. Emma and David's house was visible in the distance, smoke rising from their chimney. Somewhere in town, Thomas was courting Sarah, building toward his own future. This was their legacy, Nathan thought. Not just land or buildings or cattle, but family and community and love that would continue long after they were gone. They had taken the desperate situation of a widow needing vinegar and salt and transformed it into something extraordinary, something that mattered. "Come on," Tabitha said eventually, standing and pulling Nathan to his feet. "It is late, and we should get to bed." They walked inside together, locking the door behind them, and made their way to the bedroom they had shared for nearly 15 years. As they settled into bed, Nathan pulled Tabitha close, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair, feeling the warmth of her body against his. "Good night, my love," he whispered. "Good night," she replied, and he could hear the smile in her voice. Nathan closed his eyes, grateful beyond words for this woman, this life, this second chance at happiness they had both been given. The widow had needed vinegar and salt, basic necessities for survival. The cowboy had offered devotion, transforming survival into life, loneliness into love, desperation into hope. And together, they had built something that would last forever.